What's going on, everyone? Coach Aaron here, back again with another video to help you dominate the platform. Today we're going to talk all about bench grips and which one's right for you. So let's get started. Alrighty everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in to another video. If you are new to the channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Venmo Khamesi. I am a powerlifting athlete, coach, meet director, and referee, and I make videos here on this channel to help out those groups of people with whatever knowledge I can provide. Today we're going to talk all about bench grips and go over what may be the bench grip for you or how you can adjust from your current grip to maybe another grip that you want to try. In addition, we'll throw some bonus stuff in there about how you can program different accessory exercises depending on what kind of grip you have or what kind of grip you're trying to transition to. First things first, when you want to get started with any kind of discussion or communication between you and your coach, or maybe you're the coach and you're trying to talk with the athlete, is knowing the vocabulary and basically being on the same point when you're using different words like a close grip bench or a wide grip bench or a competition bench or anything like that. So the first thing we want to go over is what constitutes a close grip or wide grip or moderate grip or anything like that. And in the bench, there's not that much to work with, especially for what people normally do. So the maximum grip you can go is your index finger or pointer finger covering that ring, okay, the power ring on a powerlifting bar. And then usually the most narrow someone goes is usually their pointer finger right up against the knurling before it touches the smooth part of the bar. So we really only have this space to work with. So it's not like too much of an extreme where compared to like sumo and conventional, the stance width is going to be very extreme. And then even for squat, some people do go very wide, so it can be a very extreme difference between a narrow squat and a wide squat. In a close grip bench and a wide grip bench, there isn't that much of a difference. And also there's a blend, okay? Not everyone says, okay, this is what a close grip bench is, this is what a moderate grip bench is, this is what a wide grip bench is. Some of it overlaps, okay, as far as the range. So you can maybe think of it as wide grip would be anywhere from maximum, which would be pointer finger on the ring, up to the middle finger and the ring finger on the ring. So you got 3 fingers there for your wide grip. Then moderate could be like basically the same range but going further. So now we're going pinky on the ring, pinky just inside the ring, and then maybe a thumb's length away from the ring. Okay, so that would be your moderate. And then narrow would be anything in between, which maybe you can base it off of where your thumbnail starts, right where the knurling starts, or maybe your first knuckle, right where the knurling starts, and then all the way up to, like I said, the index finger being right where the knurling starts. Okay, so you have this little bit of range that's going to be a close grip, this little bit of range that's going to be a moderate grip, and then this little bit of range that's going to be the wide grip. So that kind of covers the vocabulary as far as what I use and how I communicate with my athletes. And usually the close grip, if we put it as an assistance exercise for someone who's a wide grip bencher, is in reference to that wide grip. So if your wide grip is that maximum, the pointer finger on the ring, and you have to do a closer grip bench, it just means it needs to be closer than that wide grip range. So it can be in the moderate grip range or it can be in the close grip range based on the person. But that doesn't mean you have to go from one extreme all the way to the other extreme, okay? So you can do something in the middle and do that as your closer grip bench and see how that works. And then always you can make adjustments based on how you're built and how it feels, if you're hitting the right muscles, that kind of stuff. And the same thing on the other side. If you are someone who is a close grip bencher, let's say you're right up against that knurling where the smooth part turns into the sharp part, then you don't have to do your wider grip bench as the other extreme. It may be too big of a difference, or maybe you're making the big difference too soon, and then it can be very difficult or lead to injury. So you can focus on maybe pinky on the ring as your wider grip bench, okay? So it's always referenced to what your main grip is. With any of these grips, okay, when you're using it as your competition grip or assistance exercise, you want to hit those key overall points in what is considered a good bench, okay? So we won't go over all the key points as far as your shoulders and your butt and your feet and all that kind of stuff, but we'll go over as far as the stacking the arm, okay? So regardless of where your grip is, you do want to have the bar deep into the palm, stacking over the wrist joint, stacking over the elbow joint, and you want to be touching in a good spot on your chest where your elbows are tucked in, like I said, to keep that elbow underneath the wrist and the bar. So you don't want to do a close grip and then have your elbows very flared out, okay? Because now we're not stacking well. And then you may also be causing some kind of impingement or pain in the shoulder. And then same thing for a wide grip. When you're at max grip, you don't want to be having the elbows like tucked in very much. So again, you're not stacking. unless you're doing something like a quick bench, which is a whole different ball game, okay? But we're just focusing on the raw bench press right now. What that means then is, depending on whatever grip you're using and how you're built, as far as how your torso length is, how much arching, all that kind of stuff, then the bar is going to touch on a different point on your torso depending on these different variables. But in general, when you're starting to go out wider and wider, your elbows are going to be flared out a little bit more, and you may be touching a little bit higher on your torso. And the more narrow and narrow you go, your elbows are going to be tucked in a little bit more, and you may be touching a little bit lower on your torso. So if you're doing something like a very, very narrow close grip bench, okay, you may be touching lower chest or upper abs, okay, to keep everything stacked, versus if you're doing a very, very wide max grip, okay, you may be touching more on the nipple line or lower chest with, like I said, the elbows out more. So regardless of what kind of grip you're doing, based on how you're built and how you're using these different variables, you want to be stacking those joints, okay? Bar low in the palm, stacking over the wrist, stacking over the elbow, and then keeping the elbow tucked in into a safe position. And then wherever you touch on the torso, that will be where you touch. How to change your competition grip just depends on whether you're a beginner or experienced lifter, and how much frequency and volume you're doing, and how much of a change you want to do. But my general guidelines, general recommendations is to slowly change over time. So you don't want to make some kind of extreme change. Like I said earlier, I'm going from index finger right where the smooth part transitions to the knurling to max grip where your index finger is covering the ring. Okay, you want to slowly make adjustments over time. Maybe you'll move it out 1 or 2 inches on each hand. Do that for a month or two, see how it feels, see if there's any pain, get used to that different range of motion and different movement pattern, and then maybe you'll move it another inch or two and do that for a month or two and see how that feels, see if there's any pain, get used to that movement pattern, and then finally you might then try out the max grip and do that for a month or two and see how it feels. In addition to slowly making the change in your grip, you can also slowly change it of how you're implementing it into your exercises in the training week. So for example, if you're benching 4 times a week, you don't need to make that change in the grip width to all 4 exercises throughout the week. You can change it to maybe just 1 or 2. So you're slowly transitioning with the volume that you're doing for that grip width, as well as changing the width that you're going to slowly over time. So what may happen for people is like they're benching 4 times a week with a very narrow grip, and they'll change all 4 to a very wide grip immediately, and they're doing a bunch of volume, and then it could just be too much for those muscles at those angles, or you may not be doing the technique properly, causing some kind of impingement or something like that, and then it can lead to pain or injury, and then the person will be like, oh well, wide grip is bad for you, it hurts your shoulders, and they go back to close grip and they just stick with that forever, even though the wider grip may be better for them in the long term. So we want to make small and slow changes, okay? So small changes in how far you go out, and slow changes to your programming of how you're implementing this wider grip. And then the same thing if you are going narrow. In addition, you can also limit the range of motion you're working with, okay? So you don't have to do the full range of motion with, let's say if you're moving out wider on the exercise you're doing, you can throw in maybe a variation where you're doing half the range of motion. So for example, if your floor press only comes up to like 1 or 2 inches away from your chest, or if you want to do a pin press where you're staying a couple inches off the chest, typically that bottom position is the most stressful on the pecs and the delts. So if you take that away and you just work the top half with that new grip, you can kind of get used to it, build up some volume with it without stressing it too much. And then maybe after a few weeks of doing that limited range of motion, then you can try out the full range of motion. Again, that would be for just 1 exercise or maybe 2 exercises in the training week. And then over a month or 2, you may want to bring it into a 3rd exercise for the week. And then maybe after another month or 2, you want to bring it into the 4th exercise for the week. And then if you're used to that new grip that's maybe 1 or 2 inches wider, then you would go and switch one of the exercises to now 1 or 2 inches wider than that into more of that wider range, okay? And then repeat the same process. So then after a few months, now you've gotten all 4 exercises at that wider range, and you've slowly built into it so that your body can get used to it technique-wise and stress-wise as far as the muscles and joints. All right, so a little bonus of how to program it for your assistance exercises and your accessory work. So for your assistance exercises, you can use a strategy that I said where you can maybe limit the range of motion or implementing it in 1 exercise So you can even do it where you're doing your touch and go bench as your first exercise and doing your normal grip that you're used to. And then for your second exercise of the day, your close variation, then maybe you can do a wider grip bench where you're going 1 or 2 inches out wider and doing 2 to 3 sets to start getting used to that wider grip. And then slowly over time, you can start transitioning the touch and go bench to wider if you need to. But you would first do it as an assistance exercise to test it out and see how it feels. And if it doesn't go well, you've already been doing your touch and go bench with your standard grip. And so you still have that strength and technique down with your standard grip. And like I said, the same thing can be used for the floor press or pin press or anything like that, where you're doing it as a secondary exercise so you can maintain your strength and your skill with your regular grip as your main exercise. And then when you are transitioning to whatever grip, in general, if you're going to a more closer grip, you're going to need more triceps. And in general, if you're going to a more wider grip, you're going to need more pecs. So then you can base your accessory exercises off of which direction you're moving. If you're trying to move to a more narrow grip and you have small and weak triceps, well then maybe you should already start implementing those tricep exercises into your accessory work to start building them up, so then you're prepared once you're making this transition over the course of 3 to 6 months. You're building up your triceps in the meantime, so then you can do lots of tricep dips or tricep push downs or skull crushers or anything like that to build up the size and strength in those triceps. So then you're going to be stronger and better prepared for that narrower grip once you've learned the skill and the movement pattern of that narrower grip. And then the same thing going the other way. So if you need more pec strength, then maybe you will do the cable fly machine or dumbbell flies, or maybe you do some kind of dumbbell bench press or dumbbell decline bench press to start building up that pec strength, especially the pec that connects to the sternum. So you can kind of think of it as 2 parts: your pec muscles that connect to your sternum and then your pec muscles that connect to your clavicle. Okay, so with that wider grip and the more you can arch again to a decline position, you're going to be hitting more of those muscles that connect to your sternum. So you can try and figure out accessory exercises that hit those. Like I said, the dumbbell flat bench, the dumbbell decline bench, the cable flies, or just dumbbell flies. Anything like that that can build up that pec strength, so that when you do get to that wider grip and you kind of figure out the movement pattern and that skill involved with that kind of bench press, then you have the strength and size to go with it. So to kind of finish this all off, you have to figure out what's best for you, okay? And what's best for you now may be slightly different than what's best for you long term. But as a generalization of what's best for you maybe long term is you can go off of what other people are doing at your height or your weight class if you've already kind of filled out your body. So if you look in general at some of the biggest benches of all time, at some of those other super heavyweight benchers, you'll see they do not use a max grip, okay? They oftentimes use more of a moderate grip, whether pinky on the rings or maybe just inside pinky on the rings. So they tend to have shorter arms, really big triceps, and a thicker torso. So that way the range of motion is a little bit shortened through the shorter arms and the thicker torso. And then also the big triceps help them with that more moderate grip to be able to press and lock it out. With the moderate or a closer grip, it'll be a little bit easier off the chest since your force is being applied more in the vertical direction. But since it is a longer range of motion and you are going to need a little bit more triceps at that lockout, you tend to see that they have really big and strong triceps. So if you tend to be a taller guy, 6 feet plus, or a bigger guy, and you have shorter arms, maybe long term, a slightly more moderate or narrow grip will be good for you as long as you can learn the skill and build those triceps. And then on the flip side, in the lower weight classes and oftentimes on the female side of powerlifting, you'll see them use more of a wider grip. Part of that is also because they're able to arch more, so they can really arch their chest up, get more into a decline position, shorten that range of motion. When you go with a wider grip, you're also shortening the range of motion by artificially shortening your arms since they're going more out to the sides. So then you can decrease that range of motion even further. In general, it's going to be a lot more difficult getting off the chest because you are losing some power in the force that's pushing out sideways. Since you have such a wide grip, you are pushing slightly out to the sides and then some upwards. So that range of motion right off the chest is going to be very difficult. But once you get past that sticking point, the top half is going to be easy because of that shortened range of motion and you're getting into more advantageous position. So you have to really build up that bottom position through your skill and your technique, really maintaining your arch, maintaining your tightness, and really building up that chest strength. But if you are someone who is maybe shorter, or maybe you have longer arms, maybe you're not as thick, maybe you have a really big arch, then you may benefit long-term from going to a wider grip. All right, so hopefully that helped you out in figuring out how to communicate with someone or discuss with someone different grip widths by first figuring out the vocabulary and being on the same page when it comes to what's a close grip, what's a moderate grip, what's a wide grip. And then if you do want to change your grip over time, whether you're going wider or narrower, then hopefully you'll learn to just do it slowly over time. And then you can use those methods that I said to, again, slowly change how wide you are going or how narrow you're going, and slowly change the programming to introduce that new change in grip slowly over time, over months, not days. And how to program your assistance exercises and your accessory work to go with whatever your goal is, whether you're going wider or narrower. And if you want to learn more about some of my favorite accessory exercises for the bench press, we have an entire episode where we go over all our favorite assistance exercises and accessory work for the bench press. So we talk about our favorite variations when it comes to size, strength, and technique. And we also talk about our favorite accessory work that can help with those assistance exercises depending on what our goal is. So you can check that out, link in the description below. Other than that, I hope you're having a good day, good start to the week. If you like this video, do that YouTube stuff, like the video, share with a friend who's maybe interested about changing their grip out wider or narrower. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Comment below with any topics you'd like to hear from me discuss, and I'll see you next time.